channel, Smash Mouth Sports. I'm your host, as always, Preston Bailey. Feel free to send me a tweet at Smash TV Radio. Like and subscribe to the channel. We greatly appreciate it. This might not be one of those channels where we get a lot of love. With me, as always, is Cam Vieira. Cam, how you doing today? You ready to get into this?
Oh, I'm ready. I'm ready.
You're ready. You're ready to get into the fact that Dwayne Haskins is the donkey of the week, and the fact that Booger McFarland was right, and I agree with Booger McFarland on his comments. So for those that don't know, and I was surprised, and I'll kind of go over the whole story today, but I saw earlier today on Twitter that Johnny Manziel was trending, and I thought, why on earth is Johnny Manziel trending? Does this have anything to do with Dwayne Haskins? Yes, it did. So,
Of course.
Booger McFarland. I'm gonna give the Cliff Notes version of it. Last night
At halftime at the Monday Night Football game.
At the Monday Night Football game, Booger McFarland, who is black, said at halftime he's very disappointed after they released him, after the Washington football team released Dwayne Haskins, okay, former first-round draft pick, 2019, 15th overall. Booger McFarland had a very passionate speech, and his speech was that he's tired of seeing young African-American men time after time after time after time not treat the NFL like a business. The NFL is a billion-dollar business. Now, when I heard him make that statement, I thought, yes, it's unfortunate that many of these young men are in that same situation. And yes, he compared him to Jamarcus Russell. He does compare to Jamarcus Russell.
100%.
Very comparable, big, strong. Dwayne Haskins, 6'3.5", almost 6'4", big 240, 250-pound guy, much like Jamarcus Russell.
No work ethic.
Terrible work ethic. Jamarcus Russell was the number 1 overall pick, all kinds of upside. Many people thought Dwayne Haskins was going to be a top 5 pick, huge upside. And yes, Dwayne Haskins has blown his career. So I said this to you a year ago. He came in, okay, and we're gonna break this down here. There's a lot of levels to this. And McFarland, on Twitter, was called every name in the book. I'm not gonna go over some of these names. Many people called him an Uncle Blank, an Uncle this, called him a C with an N at the end. Okay, you can fill in the blank. Okay, with a couple O's. They called him slur after slur after slur after slur on Twitter, on YouTube, on other platforms. Roasting Anthony McFarland. Look, McFarland, I did not take that. The way people on Twitter took this is that he is above Dwayne Haskins. He's above this guy and he's above that guy, and he's shooting down from the rooftops, from the mountain. That's not how I took it at all. I took it as, this is a guy that's in his mid to late 40s. He played in the NFL for 10 years. He's had a broadcasting career for 13, 14 years. At a high level, won 2 Super Bowls. He knows what it takes to be successful. He also knows what it takes to live in the corporate world. And the thing that everybody missed from all sides was that he said he's seen a lot of jobs in his 13 years out of the league, and no job pays the way the NFL does, including the great job he has at ESPN that pays well. What are your thoughts on that, Cam?
Look, it's just like, he was talking from a place where he's seen this before, and he wants Dwayne Haskins to succeed. And he is so disappointed in Dwayne Haskins' actions these last year and a half. And I don't blame him. I mean, it's just, when you're the quarterback of an NFL team, you are the face of a billion-dollar organization. It's as simple as that. And the way Dwayne Haskins has acted since he got to Washington, D.C. is unacceptable. And I think the Washington football team made the right decision yesterday and parted ways. And
I'm going to say this. Yes, Johnny Manziel is terrible. Okay, Ryan Leaf. Everybody on Twitter.
Why do you want to be Johnny Manziel? Well,
I don't get why.
Is that the standard?
I don't get why comparing Dwayne Haskins to Johnny Manziel
to me. That doesn't help Dwayne Haskins look good.
That doesn't help your case. Oh well, what about Johnny Manziel? What about Ryan Leaf? No.
Yeah, they suck too.
McFarland, they suck too. McFarland was not saying that, all, African-American quarterbacks are bad. That's not what he was saying. They got misconstrued on Twitter, and it went right in the ditch, okay? What he was saying is conduct yourself like a professional, like Patrick Mahomes, who's got all the marketing, Drew Brees, Tom Brady, whoever your franchise is, Russell Wilson, okay? There's guys from both sides of the aisle, ratio, white or black or otherwise, okay? That's what he's talking about. So the other thing that he's talking about, it's not just quarterbacks. What he's talking about is young men that are African-American men. Unfortunately, Antonio Brown has blown it. He lost over $50 million with hit. That's part of it. Okay, that's what he's saying. Josh Gordon has blown it. Kareem Hunt. Did we forget about Kareem Hunt? Okay.
Tyreek Hill.
Jamarcus Russell, Tyreek Hill. Time after time after time. It's not about this race or that race or the other race. It's what he's talking about is a lot of young men, specifically African-American men, have blown and squandered opportunities. Now, let me bring this up because people want to keep talking about Johnny Manziel and Ryan Leaf. Those guys are garbage. Okay, they're terrible people. But guess what? As bad as Johnny Manziel is, and he was a terrible quarterback, he still got a chance at the CFL. Not that that's anything to brag about because it isn't. And he's also some insurance. It's not State Farm. It's one of the lower-tiered bootleg insurance companies. He's still being sponsored. Do you think Dwayne Haskins is going to be sponsored by anybody in the next 3 to 5 years? No.
Nope.
No. So here I'm not going to go into all of the cases, okay? I'm just going to focus on Ohio State quarterbacks in the last 11, 12 years. The first guy that comes to mind is Troy Smith, 2007. Now, he won a Heisman. Unfortunately, he didn't really have any problems other than the fact that he wasn't very talented. That was his issue. So Correct. We're moving him to the side. So the three guys that come to mind, Terrell Pryor, Ohio State quarterback. He had to transfer to receiver in the NFL. He's had a decent NFL career. He was suspended in college, okay, for trading a lot of
memorabilia,
autographs for tattoos and other things. Okay, so that's a situation. JT Barrett, who was a starter before he got into a domestic fight with his girlfriend in college. Another guy that had some. These are just Ohio State guys. Okay, Cardell Jones is one that also comes to mind. 2016, played in the XFL last year. Looked like he may have had a start. Was a 4th-round draft pick by the Buffalo Bills. Now, here is what I want to bring up about Cardell Jones. You ready?
Yep.
This is a quote. Why should we have to go to class if we don't come here but just to play football? We ain't come to play school and study. Classes are pointless. Dwayne Haskins. Here's a guy that got a free ride to Ohio State, and he had the nerve to say, and he was the backup quarterback at this time. He wasn't even the starter. So he wasn't even a Tim Tebow, Lamar Jackson, whoever the guy is. He was the backup saying, why do we have to go to classes? I understand if you think that, but to say that out loud, you have got to be the donkey of the week. So my first question is, what are they teaching at Ohio State? Because we're not talking about one guy or two guys.
Not quarterback skills.
We're talking about an avalanche of guys. To talk about what you were saying, to put a button on this, when you're the quarterback, you're the face of the franchise of a billion-dollar organization. Okay, we all saw the graphic last night. Cam Newton, whether you believe it, excuse me, or don't believe it, gets up at 4:20, runs out the door by 4:30. There's nothing special about that. That's what we expect as a quarterback. As a quarterback, you're supposed to get up at 4:20, 4:30 in the morning, drive down to the facility, and get there and be ready to get locked and loaded by 5 a.m. and start studying game film and going over the practices. So I'm simply telling people, Dwayne, and you know what? The other thing I want to add this, because a lot of people are going to misconstrue this, are going to take this down the wrong road, and that's fine. Even though we need to be able to have an honest conversation, which sadly we cannot have an honest conversation anymore. People call Anthony McFarland and Booger McFarland all the worst names in the book, okay? Just terrible names. My first thought was he is coaching this young man and mentoring this young man as a fatherly figure, as a mentor. That's how I took it. So just out of curiosity, I was like, doesn't he have a son? He does have a son. I'm talking about Booger McFarland. Booger McFarland's son is almost 23 years old, was just drafted. The same age as Dwayne Haskins. That's what he's saying. He's not saying I'm better than you. Booger McFarland wasn't saying I'm better than you and you're down here and I'm up here. He's trying to help you. And it's not just about Dwayne Haskins. Dwayne Haskins may be going down the wrong road. Okay, he's already going down the wrong road. He may not, much like Jamarcus Russell. Okay, and then Vince Young, unfortunately, he was a first-round pick, and once he retired, he had an avalanche of problems, mental health and serious problems. So there's something going on that we need to have an honest conversation about, and it doesn't need to be, well, this guy did this, and Johnny Manziel, and Ryan Leaf, and Todd Maranovich. That's not what it's about. There's people with all background, okay? Do we feel the need to bring in Aaron Hernandez and throw in a Spanish guy? Does that make everybody feel better too? Do we want to go down that road? No, that doesn't help anybody. So what are your thoughts on that, Cam, before I wrap this up here?
Well, the thing with the immaturity of Dwayne Haskins, to go to a strip club in the middle of a global pandemic like the world has never seen before, without a mask, and go back to your team's facility with your head coach who just finished cancer treatment, it's just so selfish. And like, Dwayne Haskins was in Washington for a year and a half, and the laundry list of stuff he did, we could do a 10-hour video on.
We could do a 10-hour video. And I'm not going to go through all that. The post you sent me earlier, maybe we'll link that. There was just time. Let me just say this, and I said this to you last year. Number one, I want to say this. I have a friend of mine that works with a lot of the scouts for the Washington organization football team, which I hate that name. Just get a mascot. Call them the Red Dragons, the Red Tails. I hate that they just – I understand. Just pick whoever, okay?
Pick something.
The Red Spiders, the Marvel Comics. Just pick a name, okay? I hate calling it the Washington football team. Not to mention it's a mouthful. But the point is, a friend of mine, over almost half of the scouts quit when they drafted Dwayne Haskins because many people internally had Dwayne Haskins as a mid to late second round pick, and some had him as a third round. ESPN and Mel Kiper had him as a top 5 pick all along. Well, Mel Kiper doesn't draft. Okay, Mel Kiper's not a scout. Despite what Mel Kiper thinks, he is not a scout. ESPN was pumping him up and going buck wild. I'm talking about Dwayne Haskins and way overflating his value. Nobody that was credible had him there. The point is, and by the way, the other thing I want to add too is that, Dwayne Haskins Jr., little Simba as he calls himself, he did have a father in the home. His parents were happily married. So from the outside looking in, he did look like he had a better than average life based on some of the other stats that we've seen. So that might have bothered some people too. But at the end of the day, I want to add with this. They could have drafted Brian Burns, Dexter Lawrence, Noah Fant. Those were some of the guys right after him that they could have drafted instead of Dwayne Haskins.
It's every time you think the Washington football team can't make a dumber decision, they do.
They do. They absolutely do.
From Albert Hainsworth to RG3 to Patrick Ramsey, and now this. And this is what happens when you have an owner who thinks that he knows everything. And that's Daniel Snyder has done to that team. This is one of the worst draft picks in recent NFL history. To overrule your entire scouting staff. And I love what you said.
You're right. He overruled everybody. Daniel Snyder, we did. And he's being investigated for sexual assault. This just broke again today that there is fraudulent activity and through banks and vendors. And look, I'm not one to step in and tell somebody how to run their business. The NFL has got to step in. The Washington team is going straight into the tank. They are a dumpster fire unraveling.
We won't get into it here, but look at some of the background stuff between Snyder, their old coach Jay Gruden, and a former player who was an offensive lineman that whiffed on J.J. Watt on the Alex Smith hit. It's unbelievable, some of the stuff that happened behind the scenes in that organization. It's just, and you said it yourself, last year in Haskins' first start, he wins the game against the Lions, and then it's time to take the knee down, and he's taking selfies with the fans. And they had to send Case Keenum to do it.
Last thing I'll say, we've gone a little long here, but the biggest problem, there's a lot of problems here. There's not just one or two or three problems. Okay, like you mentioned, he's going to a strip club. There's nothing wrong with that if you're an adult and all the other, and everything falls in line. So hold on. But here's what I'm saying. Without a mask on, those kind of places, strip clubs, are a petri dish for COVID. Okay. So we did a video. We did a video a week ago about, we're joking around about COVID, or excuse me, not about COVID. We were serious about COVID, but we're talking about lemon pepper wings and strip clubs. James Harden, Lou Williams. It's become a problem, and the worst part is, in this time with pandemic, we have serious protocols with COVID and other things. Okay, it doesn't matter if you think it's serious or not serious. It is serious. Okay, and the worst part about it, not only are you so selfish, I'm talking about Dwayne Haskins. Your coach, his health with cancer and all the other health problems he has serious underlying issues. You put your coach's life in danger. That's bigger than football. Because the conversation that we're not having, and I'm glad we're not having this conversation I'm about to say, what if he would have contracted COVID? What if Coach Rivera would have gotten COVID last night or 2 nights ago, and that's the conversation. And then he's in the ICU, and then he's on a ventilator, and then that's the conversation. We need to have real conversations. That's the level of irresponsibility that Dwayne Haskins is having. Now, the last thing I'll say before we wrap this up, I know we've stretched this out, but the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I brought this up to my guys because I saw Sunday morning that there were rumors that Washington was going to release him. I sent this to my guys. You were on that thread. All my guys wanted to burn down Raymond James Stadium if they signed him. Now, having said this, of all the scenarios, to me, and by the way, you said this today, no other team claimed him off waivers. Is that correct?
Correct. He's a free agent. Yes, he went unclaimed on waivers.
And guess what? And I would not be opposed to giving this young man a second chance, because I think the best thing for this young man, I don't want him the next 3 to 4 weeks. I do not want him in the playoffs. I do not want him in the room with Brady and Antonio Brown and none of the guys getting COVID. I mean, Del Mabry, for those that don't know, there's about 25 strip clubs on Del Mabry alone right next to Raymond James Stadium. So the last thing that I'm going to say, about this specifically with Dwayne Haskins, this is the last thing. The best thing that he can do for himself is to redshirt next year, come to Tampa Bay, redshirt for 1 year under Tom Brady, and just don't say a word. Just listen, go to practice, work with Brady, study the plays. Maybe if Brady was nice enough, let him stay with Tom Brady. That would be the best education for Dwayne Haskins. That is the only shred of success that I see. I see him going down the Jamarcus Russell route and many of the other things, sadly. But like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks again.